And you know, a lot of the times, like, I look back at that picture and I'm just like, yo, bro, like, that's not me, bro. That's not me. Like,
Chris Brown's career has lived in a strange place. Huge success on one side, non-stop controversy on the other. The headlines focus on what everyone already knows, but behind that is a quieter story about power, protection, and how the industry decides who gets consequences and who doesn't. As more old footage and stories resurface, the picture changes. Not cleaner, not simpler, just harder to ignore. So the question isn't if Chris Brown changed, it's why he was allowed to continue anyway. Beyond Rihanna, the full legal history. Chris Brown's name is inevitably tied to one of the most infamous domestic violence cases in modern pop culture. His 2009 felony assault conviction for beating then-girlfriend Rihanna just hours before the Grammy Awards. That incident received extensive media coverage, resulting in probation, community labor, and counseling as part of his sentence. However, focusing solely on that event obscures a decades-long pattern of reported legal issues and public disputes that illustrate a far more complex and controversial legal trajectory.
We have maintained a very close friendship ever since the restraining order has been dropped. We've just worked on it little by little, and it has not been easy.
Over the years since 2009, Brown has found himself repeatedly in legal crosshairs for various violent and aggressive encounters. For example, in a high-profile case from 2016, a woman accused him of threatening her with a firearm inside his home, leading to a heavily publicized police standoff. Brown denied the standoff narrative, and no evidence corroborated that account when police made a later search.
Why be ashamed?
Because I didn't want people to think that that's the kind of person I fell in love with that person. That's embarrassing.
Another dimension of Brown's legal history involves civil disputes and restraining orders. In 2017, model Karrueche Tran secured a 5-year restraining order against Brown based on allegations that he threatened and physically abused her during their relationship. While this was a civil matter rather than a criminal conviction, it contributes to a broader pattern of contested personal relationships documented in court records and media reporting. Brown's legal troubles have also taken him beyond US borders. In 2025, he was arrested in Manchester, England, on a warrant related to a 2023 nightclub incident where prosecutors allege he smashed a tequila bottle over a music producer's head, causing grievous bodily harm. Brown entered not guilty pleas to those charges in British court, and the case is set for trial in October 2026. But the severity of the charges, including possession of an offensive weapon, marks one of the most serious non-domestic violence legal matters in his history. Additionally, Brown has faced civil claims for damages stemming from alleged physical altercations, including claims seeking millions in compensation for injuries supposedly sustained in nightclub confrontations. These civil suits continue even as Brown navigates concurrent criminal charges. Taken together, this broader legal history paints a picture of an artist whose public controversies extend well beyond a single headline-making episode in 2009. While convictions and guilty pleas vary in severity and legal outcome, the cumulative impact of repeated legal scrutiny has shaped how Brown is perceived in the public sphere, complicating his legacy as both an entertainer and a controversial cultural figure. And that's where the narrative stops being about a single conviction, because once a pattern begins to form, the next question isn't what happened back then, but how many times the system let it continue. The 500mm lawsuit, defamation, documentary, and reputation. In early 2025, Chris Brown made a striking legal countermove against his critics by filing a $500 million defamation lawsuit against Warner Bros. Discovery and other entities behind the documentary Chris Brown: A History of Violence. The lawsuit represents an uncommon and aggressive strategy by a celebrity responding not just to criticism, but to how that criticism was presented in a major media production.
A documentary that highlighted Chris Brown's legal troubles over the years is facing legal trouble of its own after the singer filed a $500 million lawsuit accusing Warner Bros. Discovery and several others who worked on its production of libel and intentional infliction of emotional distress.
The documentary, which aired on Investigation Discovery in late 2024, compiled numerous allegations of violence, abuse, and misconduct spanning Brown's life and career. It tackled not only the well-known domestic violence conviction from 2009, but also allegations of assault and sexual misconduct that, in some cases, had never resulted in criminal convictions. Brown's lawsuit asserts that the documentary included false and misleading information, including extrapolations from unproven allegations, most notably a civil claim from 2022 involving an alleged sexual assault aboard a luxury yacht, which his legal team says was dismissed for lack of prosecution. Brown's attorneys argue that the documentary's producers ignored evidence that disproved these claims and instead chose to present them in ways that would generate sensationalism, views, and revenue. This lawsuit is particularly noteworthy because it reframes the narrative. Brown contends that he has never been convicted of any sexual crime and that labeling him as a serial rapist or sexual abuser in a widely distributed program amounts to actionable defamation. His legal filing highlights the documentary's alleged negligence in verifying sources and emphasizes harm to his reputation, professional relationships, and future opportunities.
A documentary, the title was Chris Brown, A History of Violence, that came out last fall. He says that one is filled with a really ugly lie, one that is so ugly he decided he needed to file a massive lawsuit against the...
As part of the legal filing, Brown also signaled an atypical philanthropic angle. He plans to donate a portion of any judgment awarded to victims of sexual abuse, a claim that complicates public perception by situating his legal fight in the context of supporting abuse survivors even as he challenges allegations. The suit has triggered broader discussion about media responsibility, the line between documentary and sensationalism, and how public figures seek legal recourse when they believe journalists overstep. A representative for Investigation Discovery has said the producers intend to defend the documentary vigorously, setting the stage for a potentially high-profile courtroom clash. Ultimately, this lawsuit is not merely about Brown defending his name. It reflects an ongoing tension in modern celebrity culture between public accusation, storytelling, and the legal boundaries of free expression and defamation. And that's where the fight stops being about the documentary itself. Because once a celebrity drags the media into court, the next chapter isn't about allegations anymore. It's about what the law is willing to expose. Now here's what happened next. Because after years of personal legal battles, Brown wasn't just defending himself. He was taking aim at the story being told about him. A nightclub assault case, current legal battle. One of the most significant and evolving chapters in Chris Brown's legal narrative is his ongoing UK nightclub assault case, which first came to light in 2023 and escalated dramatically in 2025 when British authorities arrested him in Manchester. The case centers on allegations that Brown attacked music producer Abraham Diao with a tequila bottle at a London nightclub, an incident that, if proven, carries serious criminal penalties. In May 2025, Brown was detained at a hotel in Manchester upon arrival in the UK for tour dates, prompting widespread media coverage due to the dramatic nature of the charges and his celebrity status. Prosecutors allege Brown intentionally inflicted grievous bodily harm during the February 2023 incident at Tape nightclub in Mayfair, an affluent district of London.
The 36-year-old Grammy winner reportedly taken to jail in England for an alleged attack at a nightclub there 2 years ago.
A London court subsequently granted Brown $5 million bail, roughly $6.7 million, under strict conditions, including passport surrender and court appearance requirements, enabling him to resume portions of his Breezy Bowl XX tour while the case progresses. His freedom under bail underscores how high-profile defendants can sometimes balance legal responsibilities with professional commitments, though not without public controversy. Brown has entered pleas of not guilty to charges of attempted grievous bodily harm, actual bodily harm, and possession of an offensive weapon, the bottle. These pleas reflect a standard defense strategy that places the burden on prosecutors to prove intent and culpability beyond a reasonable doubt. The UK legal process is ongoing, with further hearings scheduled and an anticipated trial date set for late 2026. The seriousness of the accusations, particularly in British law, where grievous bodily harm can lead to substantial prison terms, means that the case will remain a focal point in Brown's public life for years.
Singer Chris Brown's pleading not guilty in his London assault case. The Grammy-winning artist is accused of attacking a music producer in a London nightclub 2 years ago.
This nightclub case also intersects with wider civil claims, including potential damages sought by the alleged victim for physical injury and loss related to the incident. Such parallel civil actions can further complicate a defendant's legal and financial landscape, even when criminal charges are contested. Public reaction to the case has been mixed. Some fans see the legal strategy as a necessary defense of Brown's reputation, while critics view it as another instance of repeated violent allegations. What remains clear is that this UK case, unlike many of Brown's past issues that concluded years ago, is active, unresolved, and carries real consequences for the R&B artist's future freedom and career trajectory. To understand what this case could cost him, you have to see what happens next, because once a criminal trial begins, control shifts from the celebrity to the court, and the outcome won't be negotiated in public. Career achievements, music success versus reputation. Despite the legal controversies that have peppered much of his adult life, Chris Brown's artistic career is marked by significant commercial success, longevity, and industry recognition. His work in music spans 2 decades and includes consistent chart performance, award accolades, and a global fan base, achievements that complicate any singular narrative about his public image. Brown first rose to prominence as a teenager in 2005 with his self-titled debut album, which produced the Billboard Hot 100 #1 single Run It, and established him as a promising newcomer in R&B and pop music. His early work earned multiple Grammy nominations and set the tone for a career defined by high chart visibility and genre crossover appeal. Over the years, Brown has released a string of commercially successful albums that frequently landed in the top ranks of US charts. Notably, his 2011 album FAME debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and earned him his first Grammy Award for Best R&B Album, marking an important milestone in his transition from youth star to established artist.
Hey, Chris Brown's been killing it.
Yeah.
Chris Brown has been killing it.
Yeah, man.
Got me wanting to go to a
Bruh,
goddamn concert, and I ain't
like,
even. And look, so I've never been to a concert at all in my life.
In 2025, Brown achieved a second Grammy win in the same category for his 1111 Deluxe album, nearly 13 years after his first Grammy victory, an uncommon span that underscores his enduring presence in an industry where many artists fade after a few years. His catalog includes multiple hits across charts and formats, from R&B ballads to pop-leaning collaborations. Songs like No Guidance, featuring Drake, achieved Diamond certification, a rare commercial milestone, and extended Brown's influence beyond traditional boundaries, tapping into streaming dominance and cross-genre appeal. Brown's touring success reflects his broad commercial footprint as well. His 2025 Breezy Bowl XX World Tour has been credited with grossing hundreds of millions of dollars and attracting millions of fans across continents.
But I feel like I don't want to discredit the Grammys or diss them or feel like the angry artist when it comes to that. I feel like
you won't be the first, you won't be the last.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like music at a state right now is not based on what people love.
Right.
I feel like well, with the Grammys, no disrespect to y'all, but
illustrating that his music continues to resonate even amid persistent controversy. Alongside awards and sales, Brown's streaming numbers and chart longevity further cement his relevance. He has maintained a presence on Billboard charts for well over a decade, a testament to both fan loyalty and adaptability in a rapidly changing music industry. These career achievements highlight the complexity of Brown's public identity. While controversies and legal battles often dominate headlines, his musical impact, commercial dominance, and industry accolades remain significant parts of his legacy. Factors that many fans and industry observers believe are too often overlooked in reductive cultural discussions. Because if success keeps arriving faster than consequences, the next part gets uncomfortable and forces a harder question about what the industry is willing to overlook to keep the machine running. So let's break down the part everyone missed. Because while legal battles raged overseas, another side of Chris Brown's story was quietly reshaping his influence and legacy. Hidden philanthropy, the side often overlooked. When public conversation about Chris Brown turns to his actions, it's usually controversies or legal troubles that dominate headlines. But beneath the surface of celebrity scrutiny lies a dimension of his life that receives relatively little mainstream attention: his philanthropic involvement and community-focused efforts. These activities are not widely publicized, yet they reveal a side of Brown that complicates the simplistic narratives often presented in media. One of the most documented facets of Brown's charitable engagement is his work with incarcerated youth and re-entry programs. According to reporting on his recent social impact, he has participated in outreach that includes performing for inmates, offering mentorship, and supporting job training, housing, and counseling initiatives for people transitioning out of prison. This kind of work, particularly in communities that lack resources and structured support, speaks to a willingness to engage with marginalized populations in ways that go beyond symbolic gestures.
Man, anything to your fans real quick? Merry Christmas to everybody.
Turnout, man. All the fans came and showed a lot of love. Merry Christmas to everybody, man. I'm just happy that we got all these stories for the kids, man. So you blinking. Good day, man. That's all we need.
Thank you.
Yo, you blinking.
Yeah. That's what's up.
Brown has also publicly addressed mental health issues, sharing aspects of his personal struggles with depression and anxiety. In partnership with organizations like the National Alliance on Mental Illness, he has helped promote campaigns aimed at reducing stigma and encouraging individuals to seek help. Such advocacy is less visible than chart positions, but contributes to broader efforts to normalize mental health discussions, especially in communities where such topics have traditionally been stigmatized. Another noteworthy dimension is his Symphonic Love Foundation, a non-profit initiative that targets social uplift through arts, education, and community support. Reports highlight projects that include distributing backpacks and school supplies to children in underserved areas like Compton and South Central Los Angeles, and providing scholarships to young dancers, a gesture that connects back to Brown's own roots in performing arts.
Expand on the stuff that expanded me as a kid and you know, made me creative. So art is my main outlet. So a lot of the stuff I do as far as my paintings or me collaborating with other people, I just try to utilize that because I know there's a lot of money in the art industry, but I don't want to, you know, capitalize off that being as though that's my hobby and that's just one of my passions. So, you know, the money that I can make from it.
These charitable actions are not always undertaken with high-profile publicity campaigns, which may explain why they are not frequently cited in mainstream reporting. According to some accounts, Brown prefers to keep these efforts low-key, doing them quietly rather than broadcasting them for promotional gain. This approach resonates with some supporters who view it as evidence of sincerity, though others remain skeptical about motivations given his controversial history. Nevertheless, the existence of this body of philanthropic work complicates the public's understanding of Chris Brown's character. It suggests that alongside legal controversies and public backlash, he has engaged in sustained efforts to give back, especially to young people and vulnerable communities. Whether these actions alter broader perceptions about him is a matter of personal interpretation, but factually, they contribute to a fuller picture of the artist beyond celebrity headlines. And that's where the story stops being clear-cut, because once philanthropy enters the picture, the next chapter forces a harder question about whether good deeds can coexist with a history that refuses to disappear. Divided public perception, fans, critics, and nuance. Public perception of Chris Brown is one of the most polarizing aspects of his career, reflecting broader debates about accountability, redemption, fandom, and how audiences reconcile an artist's work with their personal conduct. Far from a unidimensional figure, Brown evokes sharply divided reactions that reveal as much about cultural attitudes as they do about his actions. At the center of this divide is the lingering shadow of Brown's 2009 assault conviction, an episode that continues to shape how people interpret his career and personal evolution. Advocacy groups in places like South Africa went so far as to petition to cancel his concerts on the grounds that allowing him to perform would send a harmful message to survivors of gender-based violence, given the high femicide rates in that country and the symbolic weight of his history there.
Well, you were very young.
Yeah, you know, the creative side of me didn't let me stop because I just was like, you know what, let me stop. Let me listen to what everybody else is saying.
Sure.
And I just took the same principle that, you know, of the criticism and judgment from other people as how I took it when I first got a record deal. Nobody knew me, so I control my own destiny.
Critics argue that support for Brown represents a troubling normalization of alleged violent behavior, especially at a time when movements against domestic abuse and gender-based violence have gained global traction. For detractors, continued commercial success despite serious allegations suggests that talent can overshadow accountability, raising questions about whose behavior gets forgiven and whose does not. On the other side, Brown commands a loyal and vocal fan base, often referred to as Team Breezy, that staunchly defends him across social media and public discourse. Many fans adopt a denominational stance that distinguishes between the art and the artist, enjoying his music while not condoning his past mistakes. Some also contextualize his actions within narratives about youth, growth, and the unfair scrutiny faced by black artists in the entertainment industry, arguing that criticisms sometimes reflect disproportionate societal responses to Brown compared to other controversial figures.
So I just did all that. I just focused my time in trying to get my mind right for how I would handle life after jail, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if my music career would be done. I just was trying to get my mind.
Did that thought cross your head like, yo, I'm done?
You know what it is? I didn't let it, because I think we manifest our own beliefs.
This dynamic, where fans invoke redemption, personal growth, and the passage of time, highlights the complexity of celebrity accountability in a digitally connected world. Supporters often point out that Brown has rehabilitated his public image to some extent, maintained a successful career over 2 decades, and fostered intense emotional loyalty among his followers, even amid substantial criticism. Importantly, the debate around Brown also intersects with broader cultural questions: how society should balance forgiveness and justice, how much weight should be given to an artist's personal conduct relative to their work, and whether sustained popularity mitigates or amplifies the ethical concerns tied to an individual's history. For Brown, these discussions are not abstract. They influence ticket sales, streaming numbers, and public discourse every time he releases music or headlines a world tour. Ultimately, the public perception of Chris Brown is not monolithic, but deeply fractured, shaped by differing values, social movements, and ongoing dialogues about accountability, artistry, and cultural redemption. Because if public opinion can be so divided over one artist, the next part gets even messier, forcing us to ask whether fame protects, punishes, or simply magnifies the contradictions of Chris Brown's life. But that creates a problem, because even as Brown gives back quietly, the court of public opinion continues to weigh his past, and the next chapter is all about how fans and critics collide over his legacy. Collaborations, artistic evolution, and industry influence. Chris Brown's artistic evolution over more than 2 decades underscores his influence in R&B, hip-hop, and pop music, a dimension that complicates reductive views of his legacy and highlights how his creative output has resonated with audiences worldwide, even amid controversy. Brown's early breakthrough in 2005 established him as a dynamic performer capable of blending smooth R&B vocals with dance-driven pop energy. Over the years, he has continued to adapt, both sonically and in his public presentation, working with a wide array of collaborators and exploring new styles. This versatility helped sustain his relevance across shifting industry landscapes.
One of my favorite music collaborations where I was a feature on the song and the video was Chris Brown's New Flame. Yeah, that was it. Everything about it, the impromptu, all of it. It was great. The dance, everything. The tick, all that.
A notable example of his continued commercial success came in 2025, when his 1111 Deluxe album won the Grammy Award for Best R&B Album, his second win in that category, years after his first in 2011. This achievement indicates that industry recognition has persisted alongside, and sometimes in spite of, ongoing controversies. Brown's Breezy Bowl XX Tour, a global stadium circuit, demonstrated his drawing power with nearly 2 million tickets sold and close to $300 million in gross revenue, making it one of the biggest tours of his career. The scale of this tour highlights both the loyalty of his fan base and his ability to mobilize global audiences, even while debates about his personal conduct continue to circulate. Collaboration has been a vital component of Brown's artistic identity. His partnerships with artists across genres, from Drake to Summer Walker and Bryson Tiller, reveal an ability to meet audiences where they are musically and contribute to tracks that span R&B, hip-hop, and pop audiences. These collaborations often push him into new stylistic territories and reinforce his relevance across generations of listeners.
I really didn't deserve to be in. I was like, Floyd Mayweather was on my team. Right. And I was thinking, like, does anyone even know who I am? And I was like so happy to be there in general. And Chris Brown walked right up to me. He was one of the first people there, and he walked in the room and I'm like, oh my God. And then he walked right up to me and said, you're a dope ass rapper.
That's dope.
And I was like, okay. And then I was really happy in that moment. I think that like instilled a lot of confidence in me, and I never forgot that.
Beyond collaborators, Brown has also influenced emerging artists who cite him as an inspiration for their own sound, choreography, and performance style. His impact on dance-driven R&B and his integration of choreography into live shows have left an imprint on how contemporary R&B artists approach stagecraft and multimedia engagement. Yet artistic evolution does not exist in a vacuum. Each musical milestone or high-profile partnership also plays out against a backdrop of public debate. For some observers, Brown's creative achievements are inseparable from ethical questions. For others, his music's emotional resonance and cultural footprint justify appreciation independent of personal controversies. In sum, Chris Brown's artistic evolution and industry influence reflect a dual reality: undeniable creative contribution paired with persistent controversy. This tension informs how his music is received, interpreted, and integrated into broader cultural narratives, making his legacy one of the most debated in modern music. And that's where his art stops being just music. Because once influence and controversy collide, the next question becomes whether Chris Brown's legacy will be defined by his talent, his missteps, or the uneasy space in between. We're past the point where success automatically rewrites history. With Chris Brown, the conversation isn't simple. It's uncomfortable, layered, and full of questions the industry avoids. Who gets forgiven? Who gets protected? And who decides when a story is over? Maybe this isn't about whether Chris Brown changed, but about what the system allowed to continue. Drop your take in the comments. And if you want more honest breakdowns like this, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.